You have already worked with the Spark form container in earlier videos, but you have only used the default settings. In this video, I will show you how to use the form stacked layout skin and how to add sequence labels, text prompts, and custom icons for the required and error elements. Here's the completed Employee Portal Vehicle Request Form application for this video. Previously, this application was laid out in the default horizontal layout. In this video, I will change the layout of the application to use the stacked layout of the form container, where the label sits above the controls. In addition to changing the layout of the form container, I will add sequence labels for each of the form items in the application. I will also show you how to add a text prompt for the Office Phone text input control. Lastly, I will show you how to customize the default required icon with this custom icon, and then how to customize the error icon. I'm clicking on the Form Submit button with the one here in the mobile phone field. The Spark form container lays out its children in three ways. There are two built-in layouts. The horizontal layout is the default layout of the form container and only uses one row for all the form item elements. In other words, it displays all labels, controls, required indicators, help, and error messages in one row. The stacked layout stacks all the form's children in a vertical display. This layout uses two rows for each form item container. The first row contains the form item labels, while the second row displays the required indicator and help content. In the stacked layout, error messages display above all form item containers at the very top of the form. This exercise will focus on the stacked layout of the form container. The last layout is a customized grid-based constraint layout that is outside the scope of this training. This is the starter application that you customize in the third day of this training series. You can see that this form is displayed using the default horizontal layout with the labels to the left of the control. Now I will show you how to apply the stacked layout skin to the form. I'm returning to the main application file in Flash Builder. Below the styles comment and above the existing style instance, I'm adding a style block. Note that the application namespaces are automatically added to the style block. After the namespace definitions, I'm adding a CSS style selector for the Spark form item container. In the form item selector block, I'm adding the skin class property. I'm referencing the spark.skins.spark.stacked form item skin class. I'm saving the file and running the application. You can see that I get a runtime error. This is because I also have to apply the stacked skin to the form heading control so that its columns match the stacked form item controls. I'm returning to the main application file. Between the namespace definitions and above the selector for the form item control, I'm adding a selector for the Spark form heading control. In the selector block, I'm using the skin class property again to reference the spark.skins.spark.stacked form heading skin. When I save the file and run the application, you can see that the form item labels appear above the input controls. I'm clicking the Submit Request button. Notice that the error icons appear, but the error messages do not. This occurs because in a horizontal layout, the error messages occur to the right of the text input control. In a stacked layout, the error messages display at the top of the container. The error message will not display in the application without the form selector. So back in the main application, I'm adding the Spark Form selector under the namespace definitions. To the selector block, I'm using the skin class property to reference the spark.skins.spark.stackedFormSkin class. When I save the file and run the application and click the Submit button request, you can see that the error messages now display at the top of the form. In a previous exercise, you customized the form item container by adding the required and help content properties. Now I will show you how to apply sequence labels to the application. Sequence labels are displayed to the left of the form item container label. It is defined with the sequence label property and can contain any text as its value. Now I'm going to show you how to add sequence labels that display to the left of the form item containers. I'm control-clicking on the Vehicle Request Form custom component that you created in an earlier day of this training. I'm locating the form item container with the employee label. To this control, I'm adding the sequence label property and giving it a value of 1 parentheses. Now I'm going to add this property to the rest of the form item containers within the form using consecutive numbers. When I save the file and run the application, you can see that the sequence labels have been added in front of each form item container. Text prompts are used in a form to describe the input controls within the form. The prompt property is supported by the Spark Text Input Control and the Text Area Control. Text prompts appear when the text input control is created, disappear when the text control gets focus, and reappears when the text input control loses focus and no value is entered. Back in the vehicle request form, I'm locating the text input control for the office phone number. To the text input control, I'm adding the prompt property and giving it a value of select employee. I'm saving the file and running the application. You can see that the office phone number field now shows the text prompt. When I click into the office phone input area, the prompt disappears. I'm leaving the field blank and clicking into the mobile phone field. The text prompt reappears when the text input control loses focus. The Spark form item container supports customization of the required and error fields. You can use a custom icon image and change the background color, text, and text properties. In this exercise, I will show you how to use a custom icon image to replace the default required asterisk and error icon using the required indicator source and error indicator source properties. I'm returning to the vehicle request form.mxml file, and to the opening mobile phone form item container, I'm adding the required indicator source property and assigning it a value to point to the assets required.png file. I'm saving the file and running the application. You can see the newly customized required icon next to the mobile phone field. Without entering a value in the mobile phone field, I'm clicking the Submit Request button. This yellow triangle icon is the default error icon. I'm adding the error indicator source property to the form item container and assigning the value to point to the assets invalid.png file. When I save the file and run the application and click the Submit button, you can see the new Customize Error icon. For your next step, work through the exercise titled Styling the Form Container.